Welcome to Dear Grandchildren, a Tracker's Tale. I'm Michael Douglas, your guide on this journey into the heart of nature and the wisdom that it holds. Here, we blend the ancient skills of survival, tracking, and foraging with modern insights to help you reconnect to the wild within. In each episode, we'll explore timeless practices, share life-changing stories, and discover how the natural world can bring you mindfulness, resilience, and purpose. But this podcast is more than just a show. It's a community. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, where you'll find exclusive content, question and answer sessions, bonus tales. For those seeking a deeper connection, explore our workshops and experiences, or even bring me to your community for an unforgettable adventure. Now, let's step off the trail and into a possible nature experience that could change how you see the world. Let's begin. I remember as a young teen seeing the orange surveyor ribbons in a straight line that was cut with machetes, maybe chainsaws. It always seemed to be they do it while we were at school, and then the woods would have these deep linear scars. And then not more than a year or two later, there'd be nothing. Stumps at best, followed by construction materials and machinery, dirt roads leading to holes, leading to pipes, leading to a monocultured lawn with identical houses. And then it was at that point I knew the woods weren't going to come back. And this happened almost methodically, making the Pine Barrens smaller and smaller, and my life in the Pine Barrens more and more confusing. And so I'm standing in the town office during a meeting about a construction plan that I had read in the newspaper, with a shoebox dripping with sphagnum moss, sundews, and pitcher plants. And when it was my turn to speak at the microphone, I could see the snickers and the laughing, and immediately felt like nobody was taking me seriously, that they shouldn't build here because of these endangered plants. It was almost as if the decision had already been made, and that my attempts, no matter how valiant, were like an insignificant flea against a giant monster. Now, there was a lot to be had by that, but in the end, that was the first step toward creating this school, this podcast, the online course content, the YouTube channel, the Instagram, the TikTok, the in-person classes before all of that. They should have never gotten rid of my Pine Barrens. The problem with the format, though, is it was based on a foundation of revenge and suspicion against humanity, that it seemed like people were bent on destroying the earth, when in fact people are an expression of the energy that moves through natural systems. And for thousands of years, our collective ancestry valued, even revered, the environment that supported them. It wasn't until my late 30s, early 40s, when I made the shift, when I consciously decided to accept people as something good again, that the epic struggle against the machine finally lost its grip on me. And I began to reach the people that I always wanted to find, the people who just wanted to have a more fulfilling life, the people who loved nature and didn't want to get caught up in all of that angst of the human landscape, but didn't necessarily hate humanity either. And so, 4 decades before being cognizant of my subconscious choices, I don't think that it was a waste of time, but it could have been more efficiently spent time, a lot less bridges burned, a lot less pushback for all of the anger and angst I brought to the table, when instead it could have been meaningful and lasting change. So buckle up, folks. Grab your tools. I'm going to share with you some approaches and some methodologies to help you surgically invest your choices, gain feedback from them to increase your attitude, your awareness and choice, and then plug back into the day or the evening when you're most creative, when you're most productive, to flesh out what actions you're going to take. We'll start with the surgical application of choice and feedback. Your choices and the consequences as they express in feedback. And the first place to start is in the moment, right now. Moving through those 5 critical elements, or that sacred order of survival, I want you to relax. Find a quiet moment, a quiet place. Maybe it's right now in your car on the way to work. But don't let the rush to get there drown out the more critical information gathering stage that you're about to enter. Start with your attitude, born of everything being fulfilled on a physical level first. Did you get enough rest? Right now, with that question, you'll have an immediate answer. No, I could have slept in at least another hour and a half. Or, yeah, kind of a little too much. I got a sleep hangover. Oh, I woke up ready to go. Good. If, on the other hand, it wasn't good, track it. Was it dehydration? Not enough or too much coffee? Did you stay up too late Netflix binging? Scrolling? What kind of dis-ease, creating lack, imbalance, or blockage are you dealing with regard to sleep, right? Because that's shelter, and shelter is not just your house and your clothing, but your body. Are you dehydrated? Drink water. You should already be drinking water now. As a matter of fact, it happens that quickly. Fire, which is light, warmth, and security. Do you feel that that's all in balance? Now, every time you ask yourself a question, run through a series where you check your inner vision first. Let's go back to attitude. How's my attitude? I'm kind of grumpy today and I'm in a rush. Why is that here? What is this telling me, and what should I do about it? No, immediately don't try to figure it out with your brain first. Let your emotive, deeper antenna array speak to you. Then your brain. Search for feelings and emotions first, and then qualify them once they leave you or start to waver with the wordy thoughts in your head. It's best, even if you have a journal, that you just write it down, because retelling the story hardwires it into a behavior change. First, it goes from that fleeting short-term memory into a long-term memory bank, which can be accessed at any time to change behaviors. And this is how we develop our proactive mindset, addressing emergent problems before we have to react to problems we can't ignore. It's like keeping the oil changed on a regular basis in your vehicle, or checking the tire pressure. Hardly anybody does it, but for those who do, their cars last a lot longer with a lot less maintenance issues on the whole. But even if they don't, they could rule out certain things because they've been regularly maintaining their vehicles, which means they have an emotional investment and a much higher level of awareness to the situation going on. You want that for your body. Your body is your operating system. It houses your brain, your antenna array, your life support system in general. If any of that starts to waver, you're going to find a diminished sense of awareness and limited choices and options. So we're going to reverse the trend. Back to the beginning. Assess the present situation. Scroll through methodically in a place where you're relaxed and quiet. Maybe it's having a cup of coffee before the family wakes up and before you have to get ready for work. Or you're just sitting on the edge of the bed, looking out the window, taking a deep breath. How's my attitude? Well, if it sucks, nothing beats the Thanksgiving address. You don't have to scroll through the entirety of it. What one thing do you love about your life, yourself, your family, your home, the things that you've earned or could be proud of, that you're looking forward to or can look back on with fondness. Start with one thing and then grow it until you feel that endorphin release. Good, we've shifted and taken care of that for a little while. And then shelter. Doesn't have to be the clothes, but it can be. Look outside. Is there frost on the window or dew? Is it raining? Right? And just how does the perfect outfit work for the weather at hand or the comfort level or the social environment and then with that sense of thankfulness still intact, you open up your closet or your dresser and it's almost like a palette and you're going to dress more surgically for the event. Nobody even needs to know that this is what you're doing, but because it changes the way you carry yourself, it makes all the difference in the world. Quite frankly, it doesn't matter what you're wearing, but that you've created a meaningful ceremony and selected what you feel is going to work the best for you starts to instill some self-confidence that maybe wasn't there yet. And it's your shelter. It's going to keep you warm or comfortable or both. And do the same with water. When's the last time you changed the filters? When's the last time you hydrated or peed or both? In fact, you feel so motivated, maybe you'll stop and get an extra 3 or 4 bottles to put in the car in case of. And fire, the electricity, the furnace, the heating oil, the firewood. When you go through each one, where you first get a sense of, is it all right? Is everything fine with? And you can't rush it. If you rush it, it's going to taint the results. It has to be like a lazy river. It might take 20 minutes, but it's 20 minutes that you spend now top-loading awareness so that you're much more efficient throughout the expression of your day. The next piece, as you're checking these questions, why is this here? What is this telling me? What should I do about it? Against that faster than thought language of feelings, emotions, signs, symbols, visions, dreams, and omens, your inner vision. If it's tight, you know that perhaps there's something wrong. There's a blockage or an imbalance or a lack. If there's a release, all things are good. Okay, good. But in that tightness, now bring on your logical mind and track it. Why? Did I pay the electric bill? I should probably check that before I go today. That way I'm not carrying that little kernel of sand in my shoe that's going to wear me down. I want to have a sense of relief and awareness that, no, I didn't, but it's not due for another week, so I'm good. Maybe even write it on a big calendar on the wall or put it in your phone. An alarm to remind you. And then this release. A burden you didn't even know you were carrying. Subconsciously. A source of tension. And you've created a new agreement with yourself. I am now aware of what was bothering me, and it's going to be an easy fix, and this is my approach. That last piece is your action plan and your action lists. So, become present. One full breath with no thoughts, and then bring up that sacred question, systematically addressing each of your critical systems: attitude, shelter, water, fire, and food, one at a time. In that order. Food can take care of itself. At the very least, you'll be good for 3 or 4 days, but the others are supporting your ability to gain calories, and calories can be measured as heat units, currency, right? Listening to your inner vision. And when you feel that dis-ease, tracking it, and then using your higher level thinking, I put that in quotes, but your wordy, linguistic part of your mind, the one that problem solves, you've already given it an order. Instead of it being in charge, you're assigning it problem-solving tasks. It's not unlike AI. And then the action plans and the action lists. Well, what's the difference? An action plan is you know what you have to do to get out of that situation, to improve your situation. Let me reword that. You know what you have to do to improve your situation. We're not going to focus on the dis-ease any longer than we have to find the solution. And then it's the solution that we feed. We dwell on the positive outcome until it manifests. And we do so through action. the problem solver, the brain, the higher level thinking brain, will give us all types of options. But then again, with each option, run through that cycle. Sacred question. What other options do I have? What other creative resources are available to me? What is the most efficient way to manage, approach, break this down into, find the resources for? What is the best procedure? And then here's the kicker. How does this look in a comfortable manner as it unfolds through time? Too often, we make a to-do list with 12 to 15 things on it per day. And after the third thing we try to do, in a rushed, frustrated manner, we run out of time and we get so mad and so disappointed and discouraged. I would recommend you only put 1 or 2 items per category on your list. What is that? 5 to 10 things on your action list. And as you go through your day, you celebrate each one as an accomplishment towards becoming a better you. So this naturally leads you into what you're heading to. What is your ecological ideal? The first part's critical. Where am I at now? How are things going internally with my own operating system? And then after you examine each one thoroughly, meticulously, remember attention to detail, focusing on each individual part of the whole to make sure that your foundation, if not well, is operational. Before launching into part 2, what is your ecological ideal? More than what do I want to be when I grow up? It's how does my measurable outcomes look when I'm done at the end of the day, or by lunch, or at the end of the week? My 1 day, 1 week, 1 year, 3-year, 5-year growth plan, and don't get too attached to it because it has to remain breathable. Your situation is always dynamic. If you're so locked in on point B 5 years from now, then you've just condemned yourself to the point B being a minimum of 5 years. If instead you revisit at the end of each day things as they have been unfolding, new opportunities and choices will present themselves, and you hold them against the light of where you are now and how much time and calories it might cost to change direction given each new opportunity, each new meeting, each new person who comes through your mind screen of your daily routine or event that might be coming up, workshops. You could shave that time in half or more if that's part of your adaptability. We're all wired different. Maybe 5 years is a little bit more than ambitious, and it's going to take 10. Adaptability in that case will keep you from losing your mind or living each day perpetually frustrated. That's my brain. I'm so eager to get it done yesterday that I set myself up for failure. I've rescripted. I set myself up for success not by putting 8 to 12 things on a vague to-do list, but instead I wait until just before my brain is ready to sleep, and instead of jumping on the machine to scroll or on the television to binge, I get my journal out and a pen. Again, because my brain is wired this way. And I start thinking about each item and how it would look and what I would need to do. My action list isn't milk, bread, eggs. It's inventory the next 2 weeks for food. That's action list item number 1. Take my list of foods to the grocery store, and on the way, I'll stop at the post office. And on my way back, I'll stop at the IRS to get the forms, right? So I'm looking at this journal at my bedside of action lists gone by, and most of them have little check marks in them, but some of them are still blank or have a circle with an arrow moving it forward, or a note, can't do this until January 3rd. It's a living document for my living being. that keeps me honest because I wrote it down and I can refer back to it. An action list might have phone numbers and names, whereas a to-do list is so vague that often I forget that it should be in the context of how I spend my time and calories each day. I'm crafting my tomorrow, and just before I go to sleep, it's in my subconscious when my brain is at its most mellow, most creative, and most apt to remember things. In short, I've taken prime time away from strange New York and Hollywood producers who have scripts of division and reclaimed it as my own so that I can be more productive, constructive, and available to the people that are important to me, starting with myself. That's not selfish if you do it toward a greater good. I want to be a healthy dad. I want to be a reliable neighbor and friend. I want to make sure that my gifts come online to feed myself and my family first so that I can continue to grow into something that will make positive change in my community. Just like an acorn that becomes a giant tree that is a generator of soils and air and changes the weather and provides food and homes for so many, that little acorn starts by nourishing itself, by sending energy into its taproot, and then growing through the storms of existence, determined to survive. But remember, survival is flourishing, not suffering until you get rescued. And so, you're using the same process towards your ecological ideal. You start with, here's where I am now with my attitude. How do I want to step into the rest of the world before I leave the house today? In the low pit of the day when I'm the most irritable, what is the best possible outcome realistically for today? In lunch, in the siesta time, in the evening commute when I just want to get home. And then what's the best possible me I can present? Is it going to be tattered and worn and frustrated? Am I going to fake a smile until I snap and lose my temper when the dog poops on the whatever? Or when the child screams? Or when I burn the food or drop the plate? Or instead, am I going to be more readily available emotionally because I've stopped, split some wood, maybe scraped the ice off of the car that was left that day, did some small thing to help the family, but also to help me process frustration and remember who I am, and remember they're waiting for a strong me to come through that door to be emotionally available and productive. Yeah, but that's a lot to ask. Then you need more sleep. Then there needs to be change because it's unsustainable. What you're doing is so unsustainable. You're making excuses for a sinking ship. And that's not acceptable, right? You deserve more than the tragedy of a hero's story that ends badly. And so do the people who love you, who are connected to you. And it's work. And if you remember it's work, you'll put the work in. Either way, it's work. You want work towards misery or work towards productive change. And don't expect a hero's welcome. Instead, it's the subtle things that you find to appreciate that create reward. 3 months ahead of my house payments. Christmas this year isn't, I wonder how we're going to keep the lights on. Right? And as you increase your success rate, increase heighten the bar. Create more challenging benchmarks. Grow into the fullness of your being. And so there is the first in roll up your sleeves. We're going to get at it. The second piece is the timing of it. Your circadian rhythms are basically 90-minute cycles. And in those cycles, through the course of a day, in the course of the seasons throughout the year, we have peaks and troughs that are affected. They include our creative self, our problem-solving self, our roll up your sleeves and engage your body in physical effort self. And you can already map out how a day unfolds for you, where you're at your most productive to stack firewood versus write a sonnet versus problem solve the bills, get them all sorted, and prioritize who gets paid first and when, and how the paychecks coming in will correlate to the needs of your finances. These things, they have moments where it's really easy for you and moments where it's really challenging. Something as simple as trying to stay awake after lunch. It's called siesta time around the world. Whether you're a lion or a human, we all go through that part where we feel tired. So how do you handle it? Normally, I'd say don't ignore it. Normally, I'd say listen to your body and fall asleep. But there's going to be times where you have to use some inner landscape jiu-jitsu and get your body off the chair and do something physically dynamic so that you can cruise past that trough time in good form and come at the next thing energetically and creatively. But be prepared. It's a buy now, pay later plan. We often collapse from exhaustion when we do those things. And there are going to be hard chargers whose battle cry from an early age and through the generations of their families scream from the top of the mountain, it's better to burn out than to fade away. Well, okay, well, surf that wave, but be aware that's the wave you're surfing. And like a speedboat, some of the finer things, some of the things that require depth and patience, timelessness may escape. But if you've never seen it all of your life, are you really missing it? And hold that against the value of what you love. And the thing is, you are your own guru. You control the ship in spite of the programming that's out there for you to consume and to be a disposable item, a replaceable cog. We don't tell a flower what color to blossom. Instead, we give that child who is growing in our community enough soil, water, and sunlight, enough nutrients and encouragement to blossom into the fullness of their being. So there's the first operating system, and the second one, to examine for your own use, modify so it will work for you, or learn it and then put it on the shelf for somebody else, maybe all three. The surgical application of choice. Choose to be present, open up your senses, become fully engaged in the moment, faster than thought, lose your mind and come to your senses. Through that sensory meditation we covered into bringing up that childlike art of questioning, the sacred question. With each of your life-sustaining systems, attitude, shelter, water, fire, and food. Maybe you only get one done that morning, attitude. Why is this here? What is this telling me? And what should I do about it? In the moment? Your brain is going to want to jump to, you got to pay the bills. You need a better job. You need more paychecks. You got to stop spending on. Stop it. In the moment, I'm grumpy. In the moment, I feel a sense of futility or a sadness at my own imminent demise. Or, okay, because usually the diagnosis contains the treatment. What is the opposite of that? A celebration for being fully alive. Gratitude for what I do have and the potential that I have now. Right? Keep it focused on the moment as you assess. The rest is coming. It just sometimes comes in like a floodwater and distracts you from your process. The goal for the first year or 3 is to develop your process. And then ironically, it becomes intuitive, faster than thought. And it's almost like you're acting spontaneity-wise, quick, fast, assured. But it took a little while to rewire and align your primal self with your mammalian self, with your higher level thinking self, so that they were working in unison, not in conflict. We feel dis-ease when there's a part of our being that doesn't jive with what's going on in our daily life. And that dis-ease often manifests into physical disease. Your inner vision is the voice of that mammalian brain that recognizes patterns and speaks through emotions and feelings. If it's neglected or overused or misused, we start to create disorders of glandular release, or we start self-medicating because we're ignoring the screaming that something isn't right. So by employing that sacred question, why is this here? What is this telling me? What should I do about it? We're first tracking that core self. And then we're qualifying, problem solving, and defining with that higher level thinking mind. Remember, the core is the director and the brain is the facilitator. As you go through your life-sustaining list, we're going to bring on process number 2, which is contextual. So the first part is, let's live in the moment and take a critical assessment of where we are now on all levels: attitude, shelter, water, fire, and food. Rotating through the second round, where do we want to be with that attitude, shelter, water, fire, and food? And we're going to do these things in the context of the rhythms of our daily life, our seasonal life. You got to admit, Christmas time isn't always joyful and merry. But if you look at the belief systems around the world, during the darkest times of the year, we have these major celebrations of gratitude and giving, because we need to release those endorphins to offset that seasonal affective disorder of being in the shelter for so long with our loved ones that they're driving us crazy, of the lack of sunlight and the inability to move around without endangering ourselves. But in the summertime, those lazy, hazy days of summer that seem to last forever, we have a completely different suite of moods, emotions, attitudes, even biorhythms. In the day-to-day, map out when is the best time to sit with yourself alone and be reflective in the moment. Most people do it naturally, over a cigarette and coffee probably in the morning before work. But they do it naturally and organically because it's already blueprinted in there. Take advantage. Empower that. Grow in it. You have all of these latent tools from your ancestors. You have all of this potential. Surf those waves and journal it. The only way to mark the subtle but steady progress, the growth that you will experience, is to hardwire it by gathering around the campfire and telling the story to your loved ones, the elders, your peers, the little ones who look at you as if you were a hero. And because we don't have that anymore, your journaling is the storytelling to the 80-year-old wisdom keeper that is you. You're plotting your path towards wisdom, whether it's in 20 years, 20 days, or 20 minutes. I'd love to hear how it goes for you. I'd love to hear about how you assess where you are now, how you define your ecological ideal, and how you use both action plans and action lists and an adaptable, breathable approach to both to take advantage of your daily and yearly cycles toward exponential growth. Until we meet again, I'll see you on the trail. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Dear Grandchildren, A Tracker's Tale. If today's journey resonates with you, I invite you to share it with others who long for a deeper connection to nature and themselves. Don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts for bonus episodes, exclusive question and answer sessions, and more tales from the wild. Your support through subscriptions, feedback, or simply spreading word keeps this flame of ancestral wisdom alive. And if you're ready to take the next step, contact the Central School at primitiveskills.com or email staff@primitiveskills.com to learn all about our workshops, experiences, lectures, expeditions, and how we can bring these teachings directly to you. Until next time, may your trails be clear and your heart full. Keep exploring and keep the fire burning.